Ho there, it's Jeff Goad. I welcome you to another Degrassi Poll Video question. Now, I've been doing a lot of Degrassi polls, and obviously I will put, like, in the description below, I might just do a YouTube playlist on the stuff that I made polls for and the Reddit community helped me with. So that's something to behold. Anyway, I did a poll last week that said the biggest Raditch mistake from season 4. And I said a lot of the Reddit community blamed Raditch for the shooting events in season 4. They even named him the third biggest villain in the storyline, behind Rick and Jay. Although I would put him fifth, just behind Spitter and Alex. And there are a lot of Raditch shaming posts. 90% of them are justified. I'm not defending his actions. I have done unpopular opinions videos that blast him for grudges against Emma and other people, and also his own issues, but with constructive criticism. But I really want to know Dan Woods and what he has to say about season 4's portrayal of him and how much of an input he had in his character being dismissed from Degrassi. Anyway, in a sense, this poll is the best of both worlds. Those who don't like him and those who somewhat like him, as he wasn't the biggest issue of the Rick Murray storyline. Rick was number 1, believe it. I have made a poll of Raditch's 6 biggest mistakes in season 4. I did video commenting on the 11 things he did wrong, and I of course linked it. I'll link that one to the description below as usual. But anyway, I condensed it down to 6. I was going to make a top 10, but I figure a top 6 is much better. So anyway, 221 votes came in on this, which was pretty good. 3 of them actually only had single digits, whereas the other 3 had at least 19. So anyway. So number 6, with 1 vote, was canceling Dracula instead of postponing it. I'll be honest with you, this was actually a shocker for me. I thought that it would be definitely in a decent number, like maybe 3rd or 4th. But anyhow, here's what I'm saying. So in Voices Carry, we all know the main plot is about Craig and getting diagnosed with being bipolar and basically wanting to marry Ashley. But in the subplot, we see that they were putting on Dracula for the staff and all that. And then Raditch tells Miss Kwan, we have to talk. And then Raditch talks to JT and Liberty, saying that with all this goriness and all that happening, do you think it's a good idea to put on the play after what happened to Rick? Liberty tries to talk to Raditch about it and say that he might be wrong. But Raditch says, can't we just find something else and make it like a musical? Although I should have just said canceling Dracula and making it into a musical. I probably would have got more votes. So, as is, he decides to make it a musical, make it a little more cheery and all that. After all, I mean, the guy freaking has to deal with his school being hurt and all that. So, of course, Liberty and JT don't know what to do. Then JT actually sings a musical song for Raditch. Raditch thinks this was okay, but Liberty says, that's not the song we practiced. And then she sings her version, which insults Raditch. And basically, Raditch throws them into detention. They both declare their love for each other, which is great. But that was the last major thing Raditch did on the show before being canned. Number 5, with only 2 votes, was taking off Marco, Alex, and Simpson in deleted scenes, aka constructive criticism. Now, of course, people forget that there were 2 deleted scenes in this whole Raditch thing that could have explained things. Because the fact of the matter is, Raditch letting Rick back at the school, and you don't know about the deleted scenes, it's a different context. So the deleted scene says that Marco and Alex decide after they decide to talk to Raditch, and this was after they talked to Raditch and before Marco says, I always knew you were a smart boy, Marco, and all that. And Marco mocks Raditch's voice. So they have a meeting. Raditch tells them that Terry's at private school and I can't comment on our affairs. And I am sympathetic to your concerns. Marco and Alex says that, Rick should never be let back in the school and all that. Raditch says, to the best of my knowledge, he has not been charged criminally. And unless someone has a criminal charge, he or she, a student, he or she will study at my school, like it or not. And then basically he pisses off Marco, saying that, Marco says, that's just sleep. I always knew you were a smart boy, Marco. Idiot. So, yeah. So that was bad. And also the fact that Simpson was upset that Raditch was not taking Rick seriously and just wants him to go home, saying, you're sending him home? What's that going to accomplish? He can't do any more harm if he's at home. What about the next day and the day after and the day after, huh? How are you going to do about that? He says, really? The last time I checked, we're not running a daycare, and making friends is not part of the curriculum. Although I should have said preschool. He should have said preschool because, I always say preschool because it makes much more sense than daycare. But daycare was the original line. And Simpson wasn't too happy. And then Simpson blasted Raditch in the scene we saw, of course, in the media room, saying that this incident couldn't have happened if you had listened to Rick better. And all that. Raditch did say that, how was I supposed to know one student out of 700 was going to blow up at some paint and all that? He was right. But his constructive criticism thing was bad on him. I mean, it made him look like an idiot, especially the Emma thing. I'll get to that right about now because guess what number 4 is? We have 3 votes out of 221, or 1 out of every, 70 votes, was to tell Emma, this is not a stupid crusade, stay out of this, in lieu of Rick coming back. Now, the fact of the matter is that, this had some implications. When Emma decides to stick her nose into the situation, after realizing that it's hurting people. Wait, 1 out of 70. No, that's 1 out of 73. Sorry, my numbers are wrong. But as is. It's not a stupid crusade, stay out of it. So, Emma stands up to Rick. Raditch sees her and says, please stand out of the way. And he says, we don't want them at school. And Raditch says, it's not one of your stupid crusades. Stay out of it. I'm warning you. This is serious. It was terrible. And as I said in one of my famous unpopular opinions, is that he had reason to say that. Because in season 2, Emma and Raditch were going tete-a-tete during these genetically modified foods things. Emma gets flowers taken away from her by Raditch, and she's willing to wave the flag. And then they do a cafeteria commercial, which triggers Emma. Man, season 2 was terrible for Emma. And Emma basically, wants to blast things. Raditch blames her for a food fight, even though the opportunity knocked because of her flyers. Well, how many people actually stuck to her flyers? Probably like 2 or 3 people. But that's enough for Raditch. I think he just wanted to get rid of Emma once and for all. He could have sent her to detention, but he's like, no, I got to suspend her for the day. Emma refuses to budge, but Snake tells her to budge, and then Raditch is upset that Emma's protesting, saying it's off school grounds, and forces Emma to apologize for everything that's gone on. Emma does write in a cue cards, but she says she can't. She decides to break off her genetically modified foods thing and trying to preach about them and preach about free speech. Emma, in a sense, is right, and Emma, in a sense, is wrong. However, Emma basically decides to blast Raditch's hide. Raditch is not too pleased with how Emma is making him portrayed, and basically suspends her for a while. I think as a sense to tell the students that I'm the boss and all that. Basically trying to avoid having the inmates running asylum. But yeah, it had a lot of things going for it. And a lot of people did say Simpson, when he talked to Raditch in the media room, that it was upsetness because, maybe he had a grudge, thinking that Raditch had a grudge against Emma. But I mean, Snake would really be upset. I mean, his stepdaughter nearly died. And imagine if Emma died or was in the hospital. Raditch would have been in deep shit. And Simpson definitely would have knocked Raditch down a peg or 2. But I think in a way that it just spurred, telling Emma this is not a stupid crusade, spurred Emma into being part of it. Although there were other parts in play. Like she wanted to fit into Paige's clique. And she wanted to do something for domestic violence people because, all that. And get Rick out silently. Fail. So anyway, those three, the first three I talked about, only had 6 votes combined. Number 3 on the list had 19 votes, so basically had more than 3 times the votes of the other guy. And that is not admitting to his faults in the aftermath. / ego. You could also put the ego stuff. But yeah, that was a hard one to press. But here's the fact. Is that, Raditch, after the shots go off, basically tries to pin things on the fact that, how was I supposed to know one student was going to go AWOL after 700, after being spotted with paint and feathers? I mean, Raditch should have just got Rick out of the door or basically kept an eyeball on him. So, and then to me, it's like, how are things going to be taken? Well, Simpson takes accountability and all that for his role, saying he should have done better. Maybe he did, and maybe Raditch was not listening. And that's one of the main reasons why Raditch would be canned, even before his Dracula bullshit. The fact of the matter is that, Raditch says that on the Monday after, it's a day of reflection for guidance counselors and all that. We got to get back as soon as possible. I mean, when he says that, every time we see Raditch after Rick dies, and after Rick and Snake and Raditch's blow up in the media room, it's that Raditch isn't saying anything like, what have I done wrong and all that. Even at his assembly that basically sends him flying out of Degrassi into somewhere else because he's been reassigned, Raditch should be thankful that he wasn't fired. If this happened in 2021, he would have been dead duck. So anyway, he would have been fired and he would have been cancel cultured. As is, it seemed that Raditch was just more about trying to fix his own ego and fix the school's ego. Fixing the school's ego is fine, like understandable. But basically, it's how it affects him. Like maybe he does admit he screwed up with this thing. But he could have just said in his assembly, he should have, he just said, I love this school, but all things good must come to an end and all that. Not one mention of the word that he failed the students in the whole Rick Murray situation or talked about it. Maybe he didn't want to talk about it because it was a bad point. It was a black mark on his thing. But he could have just said, I should have done better. I'm sorry. Apologize to the students. I mean, he did get an ovation, which was lucky. I think he was happy that he got an ovation. He thought he was going to get lynched. But yeah, Raditch's ego was just terrible. I mean, if you look at his progression from seasons 1 to 4, is that, that's just terrible. Number 2 with 55 votes was Ignoring Rick in Time Stands Still Part 1. Now, a lot of people forgot that Time Stands Still was actually a 2-parter and on different weeks. Both parts were not on the same day. Regardless, Ignoring Rick was terrible enough. I mean, he lets Rick back at the school. Letting Rick back at school in the one thing. But the other thing is when Rick is having issues. So in Time Stands Still Part 1, Spinner and Jimmy. I always thought it was Spinner and Jay for some reason. I didn't think Jimmy was involved. But yeah, Jimmy was involved. Jimmy and Spinner dumped Rick into a dumpster. The next day, he had different clothes on. So I know it's the next day, he basically spray paints cars with a circle and an X. He bumps into Jimmy, who bumped into Snake. They both bumped into Snake. Snake asked Jimmy about the 3 longest rivers and who's won the most NBA titles. The 3 rivers are the Nile, the Yangtze, and the Amazon, and the NBA titles were the Boston Celtics. Although, if this episode was made in 2020, it would be one of 2 acceptable answers, as the Lakers have won 17 titles alongside the Celtics. But that's just me. So anyway, Simpson says that Jimmy's now on the Wacky Brain team, except coming in for Heather, who has mono. Somebody even said that Heather may have had mono from kissing Craig, and maybe Craig got sick because he had an affair with Heather. Nah, can't be. But regardless of what happens, is that, Jimmy's now on the team. Rick is upset. Toby tells him to go to Simpson, but Rick says no, but Rick has a backup plan because Raditch is his ally. unfortunately for Rick, he doesn't say much about Jimmy. He says that he's not my friend and he has no qualms expressing it. Not saying the magic words bullying or teasing or tormenting me. If only he said that stuff, I think Raditch would have taken him good. But Raditch took him at face value. Now, Raditch did have some fault in this, but Rick, to me, also had fault. Because if he had said the magic words, Raditch would have taken him easier. Or, at worst, Raditch said, if anything else happens to me, come back. But right now, I can't do anything. That's all he had to do. But he didn't. That's kind of stupid, don't you think? Regardless of that, ignoring Rick led to bad things. I mean, it did get Rick in a positive light because Rick got Jimmy back on his side of things. And Jimmy protected Rick in front of Spinner, Jay, and Alex, who were basically the only ones who really wanted to torment Rick. The others were basically just using, not like violent actions, but actions like not saying, go home, abuser, and all that fucking nonsense. But yeah, I mean, ignoring Rick was one thing. And, he basically doesn't really have a plan to deal with Rick and all that. I should have also said his biggest mistake was not getting on Spinner's case. Fuck, I should have said that. Not getting on Spinner's case after he may have caught Spinner doing the chicken noises. Damn it, why didn't I not think of that? Oh. Yeah. Damn it. That's just me. So yeah, ignoring Rick was terrible and all that. But number one, with 141 of 221 votes, I'm gonna do a quick calculation here. Pardon the keyboard. All right, so it is 63.8%. So 63.8. Where have I heard that number? 63%. So anyway, 63%. 5 out of 7. No, wait, that's 4 out of 7, isn't it? No, 5 out of 7 is like 70%. Regardless, so 64% of people said letting Rick back at Degrassi was the worst thing possible. I thought it would be more of a majority than I thought it would be, but nope, it's not. So letting Rick back at Degrassi was number one with 141 votes. Can you blame people for saying that? I can't. I really can't. So yeah, letting Rick back at Degrassi in the first place was the terrible thing. I totally agree. Like, honestly. So what you got here is a failure to communicate. I mean, Rick abused Terry. He was out of school. Like, his parents pulled him out of school. I always thought he was expelled, but no, that's not true. So anyway, end of season 3, no more Rick. Fine. Season 4 starts with a few episodes. Great. And then Rick comes back. It's like, tell me that just doesn't happen. And then Rick is back shaking hands with Raditch. It's like, the school year just started with the student elections. What the fuck? So anyway, Rick, notwithstanding. So anyway, Rick should never have come back to Degrassi. Raditch should never come back to Degrassi. Now it's up to your interpretation whether when he said in the deleted scene, although you didn't see a first time product, in the deleted scene that he says that, the school board, he hasn't been charged with anything. So basically the police and the school board told me nothing and all that. Did the police and the school board really talk to him about it? Did they really say, well, it's your call, Dan? All that, or basically they just said, he doesn't have a criminal charge. You should let him back into Degrassi and see what happens. So yeah, that is just terrible. And, maybe it was the school board's thing. Maybe the school board had to pay a settlement to the Murray family and basically lopped off Raditch's head, either for the Murray's benefit or their benefit, because they know that all that. And maybe the school board did reassign Raditch, realizing that if they fired Raditch, he might have snapped back at them and got them into deeper trouble. But yeah, I mean, Raditch should have been the master of his own domain, if that's the point that the school board maybe forced his hand into it. But then after all, I mean, Rick's mom did say in Time Stands Still Part 1 she wanted Rick to go to another school, but Rick said that, you worry too much. I mean, I'll be all in honesty here, that, yeah, it was Rick's fault too. Like, if Rick chose to go to another school, then this would never have happened. Raditch would not have been a bad guy and all that. I know in a sense that the Degrassi people were upset that, Dan Woods was off in California and then had to go to Toronto just to shoot a few episodes and then go back to California. So, the cost effectiveness. But I mean, they could have got rid of him some other way. But regardless of that, I mean, letting Rick back. Okay, you let Rick back, but there's another stage that he should have taken. Letting Rick back with restrictions and all that. Like, he should have put restrictions on Rick, forcing him into therapy and basically just telling him that one false move, you're out the door. I can't have that. And also with that one person who made the comment on the Unusually Eric video about Mercy Street, that was the episode which Rich came back, said that basically Raditch's biggest blunder was not having a assembly or sending over the video system or just communicating to students about Rick coming back and talking to them about it. That was perfect. Raditch could have easily went on the video system, even on the video system, and tell them that he had no choice but to let Rick back because, the school board said he didn't have any criminal charges and no assembly and all that. Although maybe it was for one reason. Maybe Raditch didn't do it because he figured that if he said that, then basically all the students will run to the police office, to the police station and get Rick charged so that he will never come back to Degrassi. I mean, that's one way they could have just kicked Rick out, was go to the police. But basically, it was all hearsay, and then they would have had a trial, and then who knows what condition Terry would have been under, and if Rick had a lawyer who would have helped him out. I mean, I think Rick lied about a lot of things to his parents. I think that's why they were coddling him in a sense. He didn't tell them the full truth. Maybe he did tell them some truth and some fiction, but it is. But yeah, Raj not letting Rick back in would have been better than nothing. I mean, I know he probably didn't want students to go behind his back and go to the police station, all that, and then, it would bruise his ego, if he has an ego, which I think he does. Everyone's got an ego. It's all about the id factor. But anyway, yeah, letting Rick back was not the smart move for Raditch, and it just snowballed. Everything just had a snowball effect to it. I mean, Raditch is not completely to blame for the whole Rick Murray situation going down, but he could have he could have cut it off at the head, cut it off at the pass. Or even if Raditch was upset, he should have punished all the students who had bullied Rick and all that. But he did nothing to it, the effect. It just basically, Raditch didn't care about it. Why, I have no clue. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and have yourself a good day.